Manx Radio Sports, brought to you by The Print Shed. Visit theprintshediom.com today to set up your personalised web shop for your sports club or business.
Thank you to Christy DeHaven, and welcome and good evening to Friday Sport Preview on Manx Radio. I'm Rob Pritchard, and over the next half hour, we'll take a look at some of the latest and upcoming sporting action on the Isle of Man and beyond, coming up on tonight's programme. The Isle of Man women's national football team is beginning its defence of the Cherry Godfrey Cup in Guernsey tonight. We hear from the manager on their chances over the next 2 days. Also in football, in the last week there's been big changes at FC Isle of Man, including a new manager taking the hot seat. Lee Dixon tells Manx Radio what he hopes can drive the Ravens to better things next season. It's been a big week for the Special Olympics Isle of Man squad at the Gibraltar National Games, and we'll be finding out how they've been getting on so far. And we take a look at the latest updates from athletics, with more local competitors enjoying success both on Manx shores and across the water. That is all to come this evening. Good evening, welcome to Friday Sport Preview on Manx Radio. Rob Pritchard in the chair with you here. The time has just gone 6:31pm. Hope you've been enjoying the wonderful weather we've been having across the Isle of Man over the last couple of days. I've been sat in the shade most of the time. Can't stand all of that heat. Anyway, let's kick things off, shall we? And we're going to start with football. The Isle of Man women's national football team is beginning its campaign at the 2026 Cherry Godfrey Cup this evening. A 16-strong Manx squad is taking on the two-day tournament at Victoria Park in Guernsey across today and tomorrow, with Guernsey, Jersey and the Isle of Wight also taking part. What's more, the Isle of Man heads into the event as defending champions, having won the inaugural edition of the competition in Jersey in 2024. And going into tonight's opener against the hosts, Isle of Man women's team manager Wayne Lisy says as well as feeling confident that they can defend their crown this weekend, he also explained how valuable it was to prepare with two key friendlies against Preston North End and FC United of Manchester last month.
Oh, it's huge positives. Those matches were a perfect level for where we're at in terms of competitive matches, giving me a chance to work on a couple of different formations, giving some game time to a couple of new players. To be fair to the clubs, Preston North End, FC United of Manchester, they were very welcoming, really nice people as well. It was a brilliant preparation matches for this weekend.
And not just for the players heading there this weekend, but like you say, a chance to rotate the squad and maybe give a couple more players a chance to play opposition that is, again, a bit of unknown, but like you say, a bit of a higher level as well. Do you think it'll have been valuable to those players to get a bit of exposure to that sort of opposition?
Absolutely, especially some of the new players that haven't played at that kind of level before. Gives them great exposure. They know what they're going to come up against when we go to Guernsey this weekend. So yeah, invaluable.
So looking ahead then, the Cherry Godfrey Cup at Victoria Park in Guernsey. In terms of the tournament itself, you're going as defending champions. How much are you looking forward to going back to this event this year?
Oh, it's fantastic, Rob. We're really appreciative of Cherry Godfrey for organising the event. It's all about showcasing the women's football from all four islands. Really looking forward to it. So excited. The players are excited. The coaches are excited. I can't wait.
What do you think you're going to have to do this time around to try and replicate the sort of success that you had in Jersey at the inaugural event 2 years ago?
Well, we know that, especially Jersey and Guernsey now, most of their players are playing in the English League. So we know they've got to have improved, certainly over the last couple of years since we played them last. I'd like to think that we've improved as well over the last couple of years. So going in as defending champions, I've no doubt we're favourites, but we won't be resting on our laurels. Definitely. We'll go in there with the mindset that one game at a time and we go to win it.
Like you say, confident in your abilities to go out and win it again, but as you also mentioned as well, the likes of Guernsey and Jersey specifically there, you know, they've got players who've got plenty of experience playing in the English leagues as well, so how big a test could they provide the team as well, given their experience and their levels?
It's going to be a great test. I'm looking forward, to be fair, to see how much they've improved from a couple of years ago, from watching them in the Island Games last year. So from my point of view, it's really good to see them improve. We want all the islands and all the women to improve and play at the highest level they can. So yeah, it's just going to be a great event.
And of course, taking place at Victoria Park in Guernsey, a relatively new venue in the grand scheme of things, but a very smart venue, I think it must be said as well. So that must be quite nice to go somewhere a bit different and somewhere that looks, you know, especially that new complex that's been built, a great venue to play at.
It looks great, Rob. It looks really nice. What I've seen on the website, it's brand new, great facility. And Jersey was good a couple of years ago, the way their stadium is. So, yeah, really looking forward to it.
And for those coming back again to the squad themselves, like so, there's going to be a mix of experience and younger and less experienced players. For example, for those younger players getting used to, let's call it tournament football, if you like, over the couple of days, how much can they learn from the more experienced players as how to manage themselves between games, the things that you do in between?
That's invaluable as well. I mean, we've got some young players in there, like you said, first tournament football. They'll be able to turn to the more experienced players and talk to them about hydration, talk to them about what kind of food they should be eating, what they should be doing between the matches. I mean, it's only it's not even 24 hours possibly between both matches, so there's a lot of rest time. We don't need them walking about. So yeah, they'll learn a lot. We've got some very experienced players in the squad. She won't like me saying this, but Ellie Gorn, top of her game still, over 50 caps for the island, and she's not there. It's not a sympathy pick. She deserves to be in the squad. She's so modest, and she would hate me talking about her on the radio, but absolute quality player. And these, I've got a couple of 16-year-olds in the squad. She'll be looking at Ellie, speaking to Ellie about how to do it, basically.
Coming a little bit back to the friendlies as well, and obviously, great results, great experience, but also how much confidence do you think results like that have given the squad going into something like this?
Massive confidence, but those two friendlies were never really about the result. They were about experimenting with different players, different positions, a couple of different formations, how we press, etc. So that was the focus at the time. Having got the wins, on the other hand, obviously that breeds massive confidence that we can play at that level at Tier 5 in the English League. So yeah, massive confidence.
And on a more general note, I mean, we've talked about this previously as well, but for the Alabama women's national team, more generally, having a tournament like this, and maybe not necessarily just for the Isle of Man, but for the likes of Jersey, Guernsey and the Isle of Wight as well, how good is it that something like this exists away from the domestic season to give players more opportunities to face different opposition and represent their island as well?
It's great. You're not having to wait every 2 years for the Island Games to come around. It gives you something in between, something to focus on. It gives the opportunity for new players to force themselves into the squad. It's massive. It's really good for women's football, like you said, on all 4 islands, not just the Isle of Man.
Of course, we have seen over the last few years a huge boost in women and girls football across the likes of the UK and the islands, etc., etc. Mainly so for the host Guernsey and anyone wanting to come down, or if there are travelling supporters coming as well, promoting the women and girls game even more to those who live on these islands as well, and the opportunities it provides. How good is that for I suppose the next generation that might want to come through and play women's football in future? Yeah,
that's what it's all about, Rob, isn't it? It's about promoting these tournaments, getting people down, getting girls down, getting them interested in the sport, and you never know what could come of it. At the end of the day, you could turn out to be a superstar.
That's Isle of Man women's national team manager Wayne Lisy heading into the 2026 Cherry Godfrey Cup. Well, Isle of Man's opener up against Guernsey is now underway at Victoria Park, and I'm delighted to say that the Isle of Man have in fact taken the lead. Just under 28 minutes played there at Victoria Park. It is currently Guernsey 0, Isle of Man 1. We wish them the very best for the rest of the tournament. Elsewhere, and sticking with football, and since we've last been on air, there's also been some big changes announced at FC Isle of Man for the forthcoming 2026-27 season. Among those, the club has confirmed the appointment of Lee Dixon as the new manager, who takes over from Rick Holden, who held the post on a caretaker basis for the majority of the previous campaign. Well, Dixon has been at the heart of the club since its inception in 2019, first as assistant manager to Chris Bass Sr. in the inaugural season in 2021-22, and the last few years on the board and as vice chairman. So what does he think is needed on the pitch for the club to push on after a difficult last season? Well, he's been speaking with Darren Timpson.
It's obviously exciting, a little bit daunting too at the same time, because like I said in my interview with Sam the other day, you sort of know what you're going into. It's not going to be easy. It'll take a lot of hard work, but I'm ready for it, and hopefully the people that have come on board with me are ready for it, and the players are ready for it, hopefully, for a complete reset. And yeah, see where we can take ourselves over the next season.
Like you said there in the announcement, you said hard work and a complete reset. So what exactly do you mean by that?
Well, my point around that is about the hard work thing. Is obviously I think we've been in this league now. We've played 5 full seasons. I think we've had in it, and the one thing I know is, and I think the people who've been around it know, is it's not always the best football teams get out of our league. Yeah. The teams that are sort of the most robust, the fittest, the best organised seem to be the teams that get out of the league. They don't play the best football. Most of the best footballing teams seem to end up in the bottom half of the league. Because in the winter, when you get in the sort of pitches that we play on, that kind of football doesn't work. So we're going to. I pointed out about Rick, the style of play Rick brought in last season when he took over, and we were a little bit more direct, a little bit more high tempo, played a lot less passes. But in our league, the teams that have been promoted over the past 4 or 5 seasons, they all play that style of football. I want to go back in that direction a little bit to when me and Chris were in charge. I think that we need to just be a lot more direct in how we play. And I'm not saying we have to be a long ball team, not by any stretch of the imagination, but people playing out from the back in our league, I just don't think it works. And I've not seen any team get promoted out of our league doing it. And so I want to go back to basics. I want to get it back to about them working hard, having a good work ethic.
Since promotion into the league, obviously you've mentioned 5 seasons. It's not, but maybe the team has maybe struggled a little bit in the division overall. No, obviously no top 10 finishes, I think is a major point. Do you think that then that what you're talking about there is maybe a mindset change, in conversation with maybe previous managers? It's always maybe a thing of trying to play the best football, but then you're talking about just grinding out results. Is that what you're looking to bring to the team?
And I'm not putting anyone down who's managed it. Everyone's got their own style and their own way, but like very much teams I've worked with in the past, and anyone that's worked with me, they know how demanding I am when I'm in the changing room with them, whether it's managing or coaching. I do demand a lot of the players. When me and Chris worked together, we demanded a lot of the players, and it's hard. Sometimes when they're not used to that, it can be hard to adapt and adjust to. But it's very much that. I think our mentality or the mentality of teams in our league, it can be the be-all and end-all of the season. And the reset for me has got to be, I've got absolutely no doubts. We've got very, very, very good players in our team. We've got, I believe, 6 or 7 players in our team that would get into most teams in our league. So I would then ask the question of them, why are we finishing in the positions in the league we have been? Yeah. And I think it comes down to mindset. I think if we can get the mindset right and the work ethic right and that togetherness and that real doggedness of becoming hard to beat, I think once you can get them things clicking into place, I think the ability will then take over.
You've been around the club since the start, basically, haven't you? So have you spoken to the players about this change in mindset, this revolution of the team? Have you got any feedback from the players on that yet?
Yeah, I spoke to them, some of them at the end of last season. I actually went in with Rick the last 5 games last season, and I managed to spend a bit of time in the changing room, so I could sort of got an inside view of what was actually going on and how the players were sort of acting and behaving around that situation and what the expectations were. And I spoke to probably all the players. They've all had time with me in that period of travelling backwards and forwards to England, and I've given them my views, and a lot of them agreed with me, and that sort of strengthened my resolve around that's what it was going to have to be about this year. And throughout the summer I've spoke to a lot of the senior players at length. I've met up with quite a few of the senior lads. They know how I feel. I get the impression and the feeling from them that they're willing for that, and they feel it's a necessary thing we have to do, and putting ourselves through the ringer a bit and suffering a little bit together in order to be able to make it maybe easier on a Saturday and win games of football. We'll bring new lads in who'll hopefully come in with that enthusiasm that everyone had 5 or 6 years ago when the football bit started and we were training at 6 o'clock in the morning, and it was an absolute pleasure for everyone to do it because of the new feel around it. Obviously that's worn off with people. We're not training early in the morning now, but I want to bring in a lot of new blood and bring a lot of people into training, have a look at them, and they can have a look at us, and hopefully it'll be revitalised and re-energised the group.
That's the new FC Isle of manager Lee Dixon ahead of the 2026-27 season, and you can hear the full extended interview with Lee Dixon via the Manx Radio Sportscast at manxradio.com. Among the other changes at FC Isle of Man going into next season, a new chairman has been appointed at the club in the form of Dave Pope, and also a new chief executive, Mr. Russ Kent, taking on that role, having previously been treasurer at the club. You can also hear a full and extended interview with Mr. Kent as well. Darren Timpson speaking with him about some of the potential challenges and obstacles off the pitch that the club has to deal with. More details, as I say, over at manxradio.com.
Manx Radio Sport, brought to you by The Print Shed. Visit theprintshediom.com today to set up your personalised web shop for your sports club or business.
Moving on, and it's been one of the big weeks on the calendar for Special Olympics Isle of Man, which is taking part in the 41st Gibraltar National Games. A big island team has been out in Gibraltar for the last 3 days, taking on fellow athletes from other nations in a series of different events, which began on Wednesday and finished later this evening. Well, one of those at the heart of the Manx camp is the sport director and football coach at Special Olympics Isle of Man, Pete Corkhill. He explains how the first few days of competition so far have been, and how much it's meant to them all to be back at an occasion which is close to their hearts.
Are absolutely fantastic. We come here on an annual basis, having had a long-standing relationship with Special Olympics Gibraltar, and they put on a national games annually at which we're guests, and we're well and truly made to feel welcome, to feel part of the family, part of the team. Our athletes know all of their athletes really well. There's obviously sporting rivalry between them, but more than anything else, I think there's friendship as well. And that's evident from the very first moment that we step off the plane, where we're welcomed at the airport by members of staff that have learning disabilities. That, the airport over there makes a big investment in the learning disability community, as does all of the sporting facilities over here too, it should be noted as well. So the mood in the camp is usually buoyant on the way over, as our athletes know what, a lot of them who've been here before know what to expect. And the newcomers coming through as well feel a sense of security at how calm and relaxed some of the other athletes are who've been here several times before. When they see how calm they are, how relaxed they are, they're reassured by their friends, by the fact that their friends are calm, relaxed, composed going into the tournament. They can sort of explain to them what to expect. We can also point out to them that, you see that lad over there, he started coming to Gibraltar 5 years ago and he was really nervous, he was really anxious, and that's okay. And that nerves and anxiety are normal feelings that all of us experience when we're trying something new, and it's no different for people with learning disabilities as well.
Well, of course, the opening ceremony took place on Wednesday night. Straight after that was the athletics competition, and then the sports have been continuing throughout yesterday and today as well. What have maybe been some of the highlights so far for the Special Olympics Isle of Man team?
The opening ceremony is always a really special and sort of magical event. All of our athletes walk out together in the stadium, do a lap of the track. Some of them are flag bearers. Another young man it was his first trip this year, Thomas Unsworth, he held the sign bearing the Isle of Man's name and did so with a smile beaming with pride. We also had another new athlete who's only 14 years old this year. He was one of the flag bearers, James, and he's took to the event like a duck to water, picking up a couple of medals in his athletics events, and he's due to take to the swimming pool tonight as well, and tipped. He's extremely committed to his swimming, and a positive new and upcoming athlete which we've got on the books.
And in terms of, obviously, the Isle of Man has had plenty of success at these games over the last couple of years. So in terms of medals, how has the Isle of Man done so far?
We've done brilliantly. We've really done well. The athletes have done themselves, but also the Isle of Man proud too. Not just in the medals that they picked up, but also how they conduct themselves, how they represent the Isle of Man on an international basis, and how they get on well with each other as well. But in terms of medal hauls, we picked up a number of silver and bronze medals in the athletics event. The footballers took to the court yesterday morning. Some absolutely superb performances. In particular, a young Cameron Siddle went on a mazy run, which we all described to be like Diego Maradona, the only difference being he was very unselfish at the end and passed the ball to his teammate Ollie Kavanagh to smash the ball in the back of the net. They picked up a bronze medal at the end of the tournament, and it was the first time that group of 8 young lads had played together. So we were more than delighted with a bronze for that. We're taking on Gibraltar in our first game, who are a seasoned team that have played together for a number of years, that actually play in a mainstream futsal league. Last night, the bocce tournament took place, and we scooped our first gold medal in the Division A doubles, with Nicola Wooldridge and Elizabeth Tinkler bringing home gold medals. Natasha Kegg and Liam brought home silver medals in their double event, before the 4 of them brought home a silver medal in the team event as well. So all in all, it's been a really successful start to the games.
So that's the competitive side of things, but as you've already mentioned as well, it's not just about the competition. Yes, there's this competition on the field of play, but it's the fact that, members of the team and the coaches as well, let's not forget, get to meet up with friends and members of the community that they maybe only meet up with once a year. So the idea that something like the Gibraltar National Games brings these respective organisations together, how special a part of it is that?
I think that's one of the most beautiful aspects of Special Olympic Isle of Man's annual calendar, is these Gibraltar National Games, because of the relationship that's dated back many, many years. The coaches, most of them have been here around a lot longer than I have, and they've got relationships not just with the other coaches, but with the athletes as well. We're friends with their athletes. We're friends with our athletes. We all really enjoy spending time with one another. But as you pointed out, our athletes have now friends from all over the world, but in particular from Gibraltar. So from the moment we step off the plane, there's high fives, there's hugs, there's back slaps, there's genuine excitement at seeing each other. But one of the best things I think about this is, I always say, for Special Olympics and sport for people with learning disabilities, and for neurotypical people as well, sport teaches you how to win well, but it also teaches you how to lose well as well, and teaches you how to be happy for your friends or your opponents when they have gone one better than you. And that is seen in abundance when we're here in the Gibraltar National Games, because they've got friends here that have dated back many, many years, and sometimes their friends have actually beaten them in a competition. And there's no animosity, there's no bitterness. There is rivalry, there's obvious rivalry, and there should be no mistake. And our athletes desperately want to win, and they take this very, very seriously. But equally, they shake hands, they give their friends a hug, they cheer their friends when they go up to collect medals. And I think that's just an important lesson to learn as it is to go and win medals as well.
That was Special Olympics Isle of Man sport director and football coach Pete Corkhill talking about the Special Olympics Isle of Man team out of the Gibraltar National Games since Wednesday. Things concluding later today with the swimming competition. All the very best to the Special Olympics Isle of Man team, and well done to those who've already got medals in the bag whilst flying the Manx flag.
Manx Radio Sport, brought to you by the Print Shed. Visit theprintshediom.com today to set up your personalised web shop for your sports club or business.
And now, tonight, we're going to take a quick look at athletics as well. Naturally, so much focus was on a record-breaking parish walk last weekend, but there was plenty of success and positive performances from Isle of Man athletes elsewhere over the last week. Isle of Man athletics correspondent Dave Griffiths joined us again this week to take a look at some of those standout displays across the water. Of course, though, we had to start by getting his thoughts on that astonishing record-breaking performance by Callum Gaughan in 14 hours, 22 minutes and 45 seconds to win the 2026 parish walk in style 6 days ago.
I thought the record would never be beaten, but I didn't think it would be beaten this year, and I didn't think it would be beaten by such a huge margin. It was well over 17 minutes, and bear in mind it was on an extremely hot day as well, because all the weather forecast during last week was suggesting that it was going to be cloudy, it was going to be quite cool, ideal walking conditions, and it actually turned out to be sunny all day. Temperatures probably up to about 21. A lot of competitors struggled with the heat, but the pace at the front was hotter than that. It was incredible, and I think in the early miles, I think the fact that Callum had a genuine rival in our French visitor, Vincent de Bontown, I mean, they both went off like scalded cats. They were full on race walking, even on the lap of the track right at the start, and they never really let up, for the first sort of 20, 25 miles. And it was only, I think it was sort of shortly after Glen May, maybe on the section to Patrick, where Callum eventually got ahead. I think he reached Peel with about a 5-minute lead, and then it just stretched and stretched. I saw him several times up in the northern parishes, and despite the heat, he looked in complete control. He only actually took up distance walking in the early part of 2023, so it's only just over 3 years ago, and he's just worked so hard. Good coaching advice, he's got good people around him, very ambitious, and he knew what he wanted to achieve. I'm not sure how many people thought that he could walk the time that he did, but it was incredible. I take my hat off to him.
And in the women's race, of course, well, the two favourites I think we picked out ended up as joint winners, Lorna Gleave and Samantha Bowden.
They did, yes. I don't think they necessarily planned to walk the whole way in advance. I think they did plan to walk the early stages together and just see how things panned out. As things turn out, they just felt comfortable with the pace that they were at. They sort of helped to support each other through a few low patches, which you inevitably get during the 85 miles. And I think, once they'd reached that point, then they just decided to walk together after that and make a bit of history, because it's the first time that the women's title has ever been shared. So that's kind of a nice bit of history for them.
So that's the parish walk, but it's important to note that also since we last spoke as well, we had a number of Isle of Man competitors competing in the British Championships across the water, and we had several fantastic results, didn't we?
Well, I think for an Isle of Man athlete to get one medal of any colour in the British Championships is a fantastic performance. I'm not sure how many we've had over the years. We've certainly had, we have had a few, but to get 3 medals in the British Championships, one of which was gold, just absolutely incredible. I only found out a few days before the Championships that David Malarkey was coming back from the USA for the champs, and as soon as I saw that his name was on the entry list, I thought that he had a really good chance of winning. It was such a controlled performance. He's run 13 minutes 9 quite recently in America. The race wasn't that fast, so he just sat on the back of the leaders for most of the race. He almost looked like he was out for a Sunday afternoon trot, really. He just looked so comfortable, and then on the last lap, particularly the last 150 metres, he just opened up and he just pulled away from it effortlessly, and he made it look easy. It was just a fantastic performance, and he just looks in brilliant form ahead of the Commonwealth Games. And then we had Regan Corrin, who jumped a new personal best, really significant personal best of 7.76 in the long jump to win the bronze medal. The two competitors ahead of him both achieved over 8 metres, and apparently that's the first time that that's happened since 2008. And then probably more unexpectedly was 50 15-year-old Tim Perry got the bronze medal in the men's 5,000 metres walk. And I believe, well, in fact, I don't believe, I know that he's made history by becoming the youngest ever medalist at the British Championships, which isn't an age group event, it's a full senior event. So for him to win the bronze medal was fantastic. And he looked great on the television coverage. You know, you could see the joy as he crossed the line. And it was just, it was just a brilliant weekend for our athletes.
And away from that as well, in terms of regional performance, if you want to call it that as well, Team Isle of Man excelled elsewhere as well.
They did indeed, yes. They had the second match of the 4-match league, which was at Wavertree last Sunday on what I believe there was a very, very hot day. So not the most comfortable of conditions to compete. But for the second match in a row, the team won very comfortably. They won by a huge margin, actually. And they're looking really good for promotion back to the Western Premier League for next season. And there were notable performances like in the Northern League, there are A-string and B-string events, which you select, one athlete for each. And wins in the A-string events went to Ben Sinclair in the 400 metres. We had Sam Perry winning the 800 metres. Zach Woodwards with a great new personal best in the pole vault of 4 metres 30. And then Dawn Atherton, having spent several hours officiating, then got her spikes on and ran in the 3,000 metres, and she won that in 11 minutes and 8 seconds. And then we also had Amy Christian took victory in the 400 metres hurdles. And then at the end of the day, the sort of icing on the cake was that all 4 relay teams won their events. And there was a little bit of history, actually, because for the first time, the 4x400 metres mixed relay was included in the programme. So the team that won that, obviously, are the new Isle of Man record holders. So a shout out to Alex Bell, Amy Christian, Abby Sinclair and Ben Sinclair on setting that new record.
And just very quickly, looking ahead to the weekend and I suppose the days beyond as well, we do have a couple of events coming up we should mention as well, and a little bit different as well.
Yes, this coming weekend, I mean, we seem to be into the endurance part of the season. We've just had the parish walk. This weekend on Saturday, we've kind of got 2 events in one. There's the traditional Race the Sun event, which is a 10-person team, and I don't know how many teams are in this year, but there'll be a lot. One difference this year is that normally it starts and finishes in Peel, but this year the start and finish has been moved to Douglas. And then running alongside that, there's the Hospice Ultraman 50-mile race. It's the first time we've had a sort of formal ultra run on the Isle of Man, and that starts in Union Mills, follows the Heritage Trail through to Peel. It then follows the coastal footpath right round the Sound, and then back round the east coast to Douglas, so that's 50 miles.
Isle of Man Athletics correspondent Dave Griffiths there. Quick update from the Cherry Godfrey Cup. The Isle of Man have struck again. It's now Guernsey 0, the Isle of Man 2 in first half stoppage time at Victoria Park. To wrap things up this evening, we'll take a look through a couple of the other sporting headlines over the last day or so. In tennis, former Isle of Man tennis star Billy Harris has found out who he'll face in the opening round of Wimbledon 2026. The 31-year-old has been drawn against 19th seed Karen Khachanov for the first round of this year's gentlemen's singles. Both players will face off next Tuesday on the 30th of June. Elsewhere in rugby, Ramsey Rugby Club will not enter the English Clubs Championships for the 2026-27 season. The Northern side says the decision is primarily down to costs, which it says, based on the previous campaign, would amount to just over £100,000. And in golf as well, the Isle of Man's top golfers are gearing up for the start of this year's Isle of Man Championships, which get underway next week. The draws for both the men's and women's events have now been made, with the opening rounds to take place at Rowney Golf Club across Saturday the 4th of July and Sunday the 5th of July. Full details of those draws are available over at manxradio.com. That's just about all we have time for on Friday Sport Preview this week. Many thanks to our guests as always this week, and thank you of course for joining us this evening. If you want to catch up on anything you may have missed, this show will be available as a podcast later this evening, and don't forget to find all of the latest Isle of Man sporting news over the Manx Radio Sports Hub at manxradio.com. All that's left for me to say is have yourself a wonderful rest of your Friday evening, and also have yourself a wonderful weekend as well. Until next time, bye for now.
Manx Radio Sport, brought to you by the Print Shed. Visit theprintshediom.com today to set up your personalised web shop for your sports club or business.